The colony ship Meridian had been traveling through deep space for 3 months when the lights flickered and died. Kira Vance grabbed the edge of her seat as the entire vessel shook. Emergency lights painted everything in red. Then came a voice, not human, not from any speaker she recognized, filling every corner of the ship. Human vessel, you will stop, you will comply. Resistance will result in termination. Kira was already on her feet, moving toward the bridge. Around her, crew members stumbled through the corridors, their faces pale with fear. She pushed past them, her heart beating fast but her mind calm. She had trained her whole life to stay calm when others panicked. On the bridge, Captain Torres stood frozen before the main view screen. Kira stopped beside him and felt her breath catch in her throat. Ships surrounded the Meridian, dozens of them. They were massive, beautiful, and terrifying. Their designs were nothing like human technology. Some looked like living creatures made of metal. Others seemed to bend light itself around their hulls. The smallest of them was still 10 times the size of the Meridian. "What are they?" someone whispered. The view screen changed. A face appeared. If it could be called a face, it had too many eyes. Its skin was blue and covered in patterns that moved like water. When it spoke, Kira heard the words in perfect English, though the creature's mouth moved in a different rhythm. "I am Ambassador Veleth of the Galactic Concord. Humanity has been observed. Humanity has been studied. Now humanity will be judged." Captain Torres stepped forward. "Judged? We're a peaceful expedition. We mean no harm to anyone." "Your intentions do not matter," Veleth said. "The Concord represents 12 spacefaring species. We control this region of the galaxy. When a new species develops space travel, we must decide if they are worthy to join us or if they must be contained." "Contained?" Torres asked. "Quarantined, locked within your home system, forever." The bridge fell silent. Kira watched the faces of her crewmates. She saw fear, anger, and despair. She understood. This was not first contact as humanity had imagined it. This was a test they had never prepared for. "How?" Torres asked. "How do you judge us?" Veleth's many eyes blinked in a wave across his face. "The trial of ascension. Your species must send one champion to fight in ritual combat. If your champion proves worthy, humanity may join the Concord. If your champion fails, your species will never leave your home system again." Kira felt something cold settle in her stomach. A fight. Everything came down to a fight. "What kind of combat?" Torres asked. "Unarmed. No weapons, no tools, no technology. Only the body may be used. This is the ancient way. This is how we measure the spirit of a species." Torres turned to look at his crew. Kira saw his eyes move from person to person. Scientists, engineers, pilots. Good people, but not fighters. The Meridian was an exploration vessel, not a warship. "We have soldiers on Earth," Torres said. "Give us time to contact our homeworld. We can send our best warriors." "No," Vela said. "The champion must come from this vessel. You have 12 hours to choose. If you refuse, we will consider it a forfeit, and humanity will be quarantined immediately." The transmission ended. The view screen returned to showing the alien fleet surrounding them like wolves around a wounded animal. Torres turned to face the crew. "Does anyone have combat training? Military background? Anything?" Silence. Then slowly Kira raised her hand. Every eye turned to her. She was not tall. She was not especially muscular. She looked like what she was. A young woman of 23 with dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail. She was the ship's fitness instructor, hired to keep the crew healthy during the long voyage. "I was a fighter," Kira said. "Before I joined this mission, mixed martial arts, I held a championship title for 2 years." Torres stared at her. "You fought other humans. For sport. These are aliens, Vance. We don't know what they can do. They might have claws, fangs, poison. You could be killed." "I know," Kira said. "And you still volunteer?" Kira looked at the view screen, at the alien ships that held humanity's future in their hands. She thought about Earth, about her mother, her friends, everyone she had left behind. If she failed, they would all be trapped forever. No more stars, no more exploration, no more dreams of touching the infinite. "Someone has to," she said, "and fighting is the only thing I know how to do." A young engineer named Santos stepped forward. "This is crazy. You're not a soldier. You teach us how to do push-ups and stretches. These aliens have probably been conquering the galaxy for thousands of years. Their fighters must be monsters." "Maybe," Kira said, "but the rules say no weapons, only bodies. That means they want to test us as we are. They want to see what humans can do with nothing but their hands and feet." She paused and looked around at her crewmates. "Humans have been fighting since before we discovered fire. We turned it into an art. We have 1,000 different martial arts, each one developed over centuries. I've trained in 5 of them since I was 6 years old. I'm not saying I'll win, but I'm saying that if any human can do this, it's me." Torres was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Okay, if you're sure." "I'm sure." 12 hours later, an alien shuttle docked with the Meridian. Kira walked toward the airlock, carrying nothing but the clothes on her back. Behind her, the entire crew had gathered to watch her go. No one knew what to say. What do you tell someone walking into a fight that could decide the fate of your entire species? Santos caught her arm. "Why?" he asked. "Why are you willing to die for people you barely know?" Kira smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Because I'm human, and that's what we do." She stepped through the airlock. The door closed behind her. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the trial of ascension was about to begin. The alien shuttle carried Kira through space for hours. She sat alone in a chamber designed for creatures much larger than her. The seat was too wide. The ceiling was too high. Everything reminded her that she was small, fragile, and very far from home. When the shuttle finally docked, the door opened to reveal a sight that made Kira's breath stop. The Crucible was a space station the size of a moon. Through the transparent walls, she could see levels upon levels stretching in every direction. Millions of beings moved through corridors and platforms. Some walked, some floated, some crawled on too many legs, and all of them, she realized, had come to watch her fight. A creature approached her. It stood on 6 legs and had a body like a giant insect, covered in shiny green plates. Its head was triangular, with large compound eyes that reflected Kira's image 1,000 times. "I am Thesic," it said. Its voice was surprisingly gentle. "I will be your liaison during the trial. I am here to help you understand the rules and prepare for your matches." "Thank you," Kira said. She meant it. In this strange place, any friendly face, even an insect face, it was welcome. Thesic led her through the station. Everywhere she looked, aliens stopped and stared. Some pointed with claws or tentacles. Others made sounds that might have been laughter. Kira kept her head high and her face calm. She was used to being watched before a fight. The crowd never mattered. Only the opponent mattered. They reached a large chamber with screens covering every wall. Each screen showed a different alien creature. "These are your opponents," Thesic said. "You must defeat 5 champions to pass the trial. Each one is undefeated in unarmed combat." Kira studied the screens carefully. The first showed a creature called Gorth, a Velthari. He was 8 feet tall and covered in dark green scales. His arms were thick with muscle. His hands ended in short, powerful claws. He looked like he could crush a car with his bare hands. The second showed Scylla, a Merethian. She had no arms or legs, just a long, serpentine body covered in smooth silver scales. Her upper body was vaguely humanoid, with a beautiful face and cold eyes. She moved by coiling and sliding, and Kira could tell from the way she moved that she was incredibly strong. A constrictor, built to wrap around prey and squeeze the life out of it. The third showed Kravik, a Torvan. He had 4 arms, each one ending in a 3-fingered hand. His body was covered in brown chitin-like armor. He moved with a dancer's grace despite his bulky frame. The fourth showed Genvo, a Quellan. This one surprised Kira. The Quellan was thin and delicate, with pale skin and large dark eyes. It looked fragile, weak. But Thesic explained that Quellans had telekinesis, the ability to push and pull objects with their minds. Genvo did not need muscles. His mind was his weapon. The 5th screen was blank. "The final champion is called the Unmarked," Thesic said. "No one knows its species. No one has ever seen its true form. It has never lost. It has never even been touched by an opponent. Kira stared at the blank screen. That's not very helpful. No, Thesic agreed. It is not. He led her to her quarters, a small room with a bed, a food dispenser, and a window that looked out into space. Kira sat on the bed and took a deep breath. 5 opponents, 5 chances to fail, 1 chance to save her species. The matches begin tomorrow, Thesic said. You should rest. I need to train, Kira said. Thesic made a clicking sound that might have been confusion. Train? How? You have no weapons. I don't need weapons. Kira stood and moved to the center of the room. She began to shadow box, throwing punches at the air, moving her feet in careful patterns, practicing combinations she had drilled a million times. Left jab, right cross, left hook, right uppercut, duck, weave, circle. Thesic watched with his compound eyes. What is this? Practice, Kira said. Where I come from, we have arts built around fighting with nothing but our bodies. Boxing, wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. Humans spent thousands of years perfecting these techniques. Why? Thesic asked. Your species has no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. Kira smiled and threw another combination. That's exactly why we learned. Because we had nothing, we had to become everything. We turned our fists into hammers, our elbows into blades, our legs into clubs. Every joint in my body is a weapon. Every limb is a tool. She dropped to the floor and began drilling ground techniques, shrimping, bridging, practicing escapes and submissions on an invisible opponent. She moved through positions like water, flowing from guard to mount to back control and back again. Thesic stood perfectly still. Kira realized that he was no longer looking at her with pity. There was something else in those compound eyes now. Something that might have been wonder. The other delegations are making bets, he said quietly. They give you a 0.003% chance of surviving your first match. Kira stood up. She was breathing hard, but she was not tired. She was warm. She was ready. Good, she said. Let them bet against me. Let them think I'm weak because I don't have scales or claws or forearms. When they're lying on the floor wondering what happened, maybe they'll start to understand. Understand what? Kira looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, her people, 7 billion humans who had never asked for this test, but whose future depended on her fists. That humans aren't weak, she said. We just learned to hide our weapons inside. Thesic was silent for a long moment. Then he lowered his triangular head in what might have been a bow. I was assigned to help you because the Concord thought you would need comfort before you died, he said. I see now that I was wrong about you. Perhaps the Concord is wrong about humans. We'll find out tomorrow, Kira said. She returned to her training. Outside, the galaxy watched and waited, ready to see another primitive species crushed by the champions of the Concord. They had seen it 100 times before. They expected nothing different. But Kira Vance was not nothing. She was human. And tomorrow she would show them exactly what that meant. The arena was a perfect circle of white stone, floating in the center of a massive chamber. Around it, thousands of aliens sat in rising tiers of seats. Screens floated in the air, carrying the image of the arena to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Kira stood at the edge of the circle and looked at the crowd. She had fought before audiences before, but never like this. Never with so much at stake. On the other side of the arena, Gorath the Velthari stepped into view. He was even more terrifying in person. 8 feet of muscle and scales. His eyes were yellow with black slits, like a reptile. When he opened his mouth, Kira saw rows of sharp teeth. He looked at her the way a lion looks at a mouse. Human, he rumbled. His voice was deep enough to shake Kira's chest. I will try to make this quick. I do not enjoy crushing insects. Kira said nothing. She took her stance. Left foot forward, hands up, weight balanced. She controlled her breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth, slow, steady, calm. A bell rang. The fight began. Gorath charged. He was fast for his size, crossing the arena in 3 massive steps. His arms swung in a wide arc, a blow meant to crush her skull with a single hit. Kira was not there. She stepped to the side just enough to let his fist pass by her face. She felt the wind of it brush her cheek. Then she moved in close, too close for him to use his reach, and drove her knee into the inside of his thigh. The strike landed on a bundle of nerves. Gorth's leg buckled. He stumbled, confused. No one had ever hurt him like this. No one had ever known where to hurt him. Kira did not give him time to recover. She threw an elbow into his ribs, a palm strike to his throat. He gasped and swung wildly, but she was already behind him. She kicked the back of his knee. He dropped to one leg. Now he was at her height. Kira grabbed his arm and twisted it, using her whole body as a lever. She locked her legs around his elbow and fell backward, pulling his arm straight. An arm bar, one of the oldest techniques in grappling. It did not matter how strong your muscles were. The elbow joint could only bend one way. Gorth screamed. His free arm beat against the ground. "I yield! I yield!" Kira let go and rolled to her feet. Gorth stayed on the ground, clutching his arm, staring at her with something she had never seen in a predator's eyes before. Fear. The arena was silent. Then slowly, the sound began. Not cheering, but a low murmur of disbelief. The screen showed the replay from every angle. The impossible had happened. The human had won. Kira walked back to her starting position. She was not tired. She was not even breathing hard. But inside, her heart was pounding. 1 down, 4 to go. The second fight came hours later. Scylla the Merethian slithered into the arena like a river of silver. Her body was 20 feet long, coiled and beautiful. Her eyes never blinked. "Little mammal," she said. Her voice was a soft hiss. "You surprised Gorth because he was stupid. I am not stupid. I will wrap around you and squeeze until your bones turn to powder." The bell rang. Scylla moved like lightning. Her coils shot forward, wrapping around Kira's legs before she could dodge. The serpent's body was incredibly strong, like being grabbed by steel cables. Scylla pulled Kira off her feet and began to coil higher toward her chest. Most fighters would have panicked. Kira did not panic. She had trained for this, not against aliens, but against human grapplers who tried to hold her down, control her body, and crush the air from her lungs. She knew how to fight from bad positions. She knew how to survive. Instead of pulling away, Kira moved closer. She let Scylla's coils wrap around her torso, but she kept one arm inside, pressed against her chest. As Scylla tightened, Kira worked that arm upward, sliding it around the serpent's neck, a rear naked choke, one arm around the throat. The other hand grabbing her own bicep, squeezed the arteries, cut off blood to the brain. Scylla's eyes went wide. She tried to crush harder, but her coils had no power against the blood being cut off from her brain. In seconds, her grip loosened. Her eyes rolled back. Her long body went limp. Kira held the choke for 2 more seconds, then let go. Scylla collapsed in an unconscious pile of silver scales. The crowd made sounds of shock. On the screens, alien commentators tried to explain what had happened. They did not have words for it. In their experience, when you were wrapped in a constrictor's coils, you died. No one had ever told them about chokes. Kira stood up, 2 down. The third fight was the hardest so far. Kravik the Torvan had 4 arms and armor that stopped most of her strikes. When she punched his chest, it was like hitting a wall. When she kicked his legs, her foot bounced off the chitin plates. But Kira watched and learned. That was the human gift, not claws or scales, but the ability to adapt. Mid-fight, she noticed that Kravik's armor did not cover his joints, the knees, the elbows, the places where his body needed to bend. She went low. A sweep took his legs out from under him. 4 arms grabbed at her, but on the ground, they became a problem instead of an advantage. Too many limbs getting in each other's way. Kira isolated one leg. She grabbed his ankle and twisted, threading her legs around his knee in a lock, a heel hook, one of the most dangerous techniques in human grappling. It attacked the ligaments, the tendons, the parts of the body that no amount of armor could protect. Kravik felt his knee beginning to tear. He screamed in a language Kira did not understand, but the meaning was clear. He was surrendering. She let him go. 3 victories. 3 opponents who had never lost before. And now the galaxy was no longer laughing at the soft, clawless human. They were asking questions. What is she doing? How is she doing it? What is this strange art that turns weakness into strength? Kira returned to her quarters to rest. Thesic was waiting for her. The insect diplomat looked at her with an expression she could not read. The conquered is afraid, he said. Good, Kira replied. They should be. 2 more fights remained. And now, for the first time, the galaxy understood that humans were not prey. They were predators wearing the skin of the weak. Kira sat in her quarters and stared at her hands. They were bruised and swollen. Her knuckles were split in 2 places. Every joint in her body ached from the 3 fights. She had won, yes, but the victories had cost her, and 2 more opponents waited. Thesic entered without knocking. The insect diplomat had stopped treating her like a guest days ago. Now he treated her like something else entirely. Something he did not fully understand, but deeply respected. You should be resting, he said. I am resting. You are thinking. That is different. Kira smiled despite her pain. You're getting better at reading humans. I am trying. Thesic settled onto his 6 legs beside her. The Concord is in chaos. 3 of our undefeated champions have fallen. The betting markets have collapsed. No one knows what to do with you. What do you mean? Thesic's compound eyes reflected the starlight from the window. We have tested hundreds of species over thousands of years. We know what weapons look like. Claws, fangs, venom, strength. But you have none of these things. And yet you win. The scientists are confused. The warriors are afraid. Even the politicians do not know what laws apply to you. Kira flexed her sore fingers. I keep trying to explain it, but I don't think anyone really understands. Then explain it to me, please. She was quiet for a moment. How do you explain 1,000,000 years of evolution? How do you explain 1,000 martial arts, each one developed by a different culture in a different time to solve the same problem? How does a soft, slow, clawless creature survive? Humans are weak, she began. That's true. We have no natural weapons. We can't outrun most predators. We can't outfight most animals. Our ancestors lived in a world full of things that wanted to eat them, and they had nothing. So how did you survive? We learned. Kira held up her fist. A fist is just a hand with the fingers curled. It's not a claw. It's not a hammer. But if you learn how to use it, how to rotate your body, how to push with your legs, how to put your weight behind the strike, it becomes a weapon. Not by nature, but by training. She stood and demonstrated a simple jab. This is boxing. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We turned it into a science. We learned exactly which angles hurt the most, exactly which targets cause the most damage. The chin, the liver, the temple. She dropped to the floor and showed him a basic grappling position. This is wrestling. 2 humans grab each other and try to control the other's body. We learned that if you can control someone's position, you can control the fight. We learned that the ground is not a weakness. It's a second arena where different rules apply. She moved through a series of techniques, an armbar, a triangle choke, a kimura. These are submissions, ways to attack the joints and the blood flow. Every species has joints that only bend in certain directions. Every species has arteries that carry blood to the brain. We learned to attack those weaknesses. Thesic watched in silence. When Kira finished, he said, You created an entire science of violence. Yes, because we had to. Other species evolved weapons. We evolved the ability to learn, to adapt, to take our weaknesses and turn them into strengths. Kira sat back down, breathing hard. Do you know why humans are so dangerous? Tell me. Because we never stop learning. Every time I fight one of your champions, I learn something new. I adapt. I get better. By the time I face the unmarked, I will be a different fighter than I was when I faced Garath. Thesic was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, I think I finally understand why the Concord is afraid of you. The 4th fight came the next day. Genvo the Quellan floated into the arena on invisible currents of telekinetic force. The creature was thin and pale, with large dark eyes that seemed to look through Kira rather than at her. It was the first opponent who did not speak to her before the fight. It simply waited, calm and patient. The bell rang. Immediately, Kira felt a force push against her chest. Telekinesis. Genvo was trying to keep her away, to control the distance without ever touching her. She pushed forward, but it was like walking through deep water. Every step took effort. She watched the Quellen's eyes. There was concentration there. Focus. The telekinesis required thought, required attention. And when Genvo pushed, there was a tiny delay. A fraction of a second between the decision and the action. Kira changed her rhythm. She stepped forward, then stopped. Stepped again, then retreated. She was unpredictable, chaotic, forcing Genvo to constantly adjust. The Quellen's large eyes blinked rapidly. Kira could see the strain building. She feinted left. The telekinetic force pushed left to meet her. But she was already going right, moving explosively forward in a burst of speed that caught Genvo completely off guard. The distance closed in an instant. And in close range, telekinesis meant nothing. Kira threw a single punch. A right cross, perfectly timed, perfectly placed. It caught Genvo on the temple. The Quellen crumpled like a puppet with cut strings. 4 victories. The arena was silent. Then slowly, something strange happened. The aliens began to make noise. Not the noise of shock or confusion that she had heard before. This was something else. It sounded almost like respect. Tasik met her at the edge of the arena. His compound eyes were bright. "One more," he said. "The unmarked. No one knows what it is. No one has ever defeated it. No one has ever touched it." Kira nodded. Her body was exhausted. Her hands were barely able to close into fists. She had nothing left. But she was human, and humans did not quit. "Then I'll have to be the first," she said. She returned to her quarters to rest. Tomorrow she would face the impossible. Tomorrow she would fight something that had never been beaten. Tomorrow the fate of her entire species would be decided by her bleeding hands. Kira closed her eyes and dreamed of Earth, of sunlight, of her mother's face, of everything she was fighting for. One more fight, one more chance. She would not waste it. The arena was packed with more beings than Kira had ever seen. Every seat was filled. Screens floated everywhere, carrying the image to trillions of viewers across the galaxy. The Concord had never seen anything like this. A soft, clawless creature from an unknown world had defeated 4 of their greatest champions. Now only the unmarked remained. Kira stood at the edge of the circle. Her body was a map of pain. Bruises covered her arms. Her ribs ached with every breath. Her hands were so swollen she could barely make fists. She had given everything in the first 4 fights. She had almost nothing left, but she was still standing, and that was enough. The lights dimmed. A door opened on the far side of the arena, and the unmarked stepped into view. It was tall, at nearly 7 feet, and covered in what looked like living shadow. Its body shifted and changed as it moved, never quite settling into a fixed shape. It had no visible eyes, no mouth, no features at all. It was darkness given form. It was fear made flesh. Kira felt her heart freeze in her chest. For the first time since the trial began, she was truly afraid. The unmarked did not speak. It simply waited, motionless, watching her with senses she could not understand. The bell rang. Kira moved first. She threw a jab, testing the distance. The unmarked shifted sideways, not stepping, but flowing like water, and her fist passed through empty air. She followed with a cross, a hook, a front kick, each strike missed by inches. The creature moved with impossible precision, reading her attacks before she even finished thinking them. Then it struck back. The blow came from nowhere. A limb of shadow slammed into her ribs like a hammer. Kira flew backward, crashing to the ground. Pain exploded through her chest. She gasped for air. She rolled to her feet. The unmarked was already there. Another blow caught her shoulder, spinning her around. A third strike hit her thigh, and her leg went numb. Kira staggered, barely able to stand. Blood ran from a cut on her forehead, dripping into her eyes. Every breath was agony. She had never faced anything like this. The creature was faster than her, stronger than her, and it knew exactly what she was going to do before she did it. For the first time, she thought she might lose. In the stands, Thesic watched with horror. The crowd was silent. They had expected the unmarked to win, but not like this. Not so easily. The human who had defeated 4 champions looked like a child being beaten by a giant. But then something happened. Kira stopped moving. She stood in the center of the arena, bleeding and broken, and she closed her eyes. The unmarked circled her, waiting for her next attack. But she did not attack. She simply breathed, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Slow, steady, calm. She remembered her training, not the techniques but the lessons behind them. Her first teacher, an old man with scarred hands, had told her something she had never forgotten. The greatest weapon is not the fist. It is the will to stand again. Kira opened her eyes. The unmarked struck. This time she did not try to dodge. She took the blow on her forearm, letting the impact travel through her body into the ground. It hurt. Everything hurt. But she stayed on her feet. She watched. She learned. The unmarked moved in patterns, subtle, almost invisible, but patterns. It flowed left after certain attacks. It paused before others. Its reading of her movements was not magic. It was prediction based on what it had seen before. So Kira gave it something it had never seen. She stopped fighting like herself. She mixed styles. Boxing footwork with wrestling shots, with judo throws, with techniques she had seen on videos from fighters she had never met. She became unpredictable, chaotic, a storm of movement with no pattern at all. The unmarked hesitated. For just a fraction of a second, it did not know what she was going to do. That fraction was enough. Kira exploded forward. Her hand caught the creature's arm, and it was solid. The unmarked was not a ghost. It was flesh and blood hidden by shadow. She grabbed the arm and twisted, pulling the creature off balance. For the first time in its existence, the unmarked stumbled. The crowd gasped. No one had ever touched it before. No one had ever made it fall. Kira did not hesitate. She threw herself onto the creature's back, wrapping her legs around its waist, her arms around its neck. A rear naked choke, the same technique that had beaten Scylla. She squeezed with everything she had left. The unmarked thrashed. Its shadow limbs beat against her body. She felt bones crack. Blood filled her mouth. The pain was beyond anything she had ever experienced. But she did not let go. Seconds passed. The unmarked's movement slowed. Its thrashing became weak. Its shadow form began to fade, revealing something beneath. A creature of pale skin and thin limbs, gasping for air. With a final shudder, it went limp. Kira held the choke for 2 more seconds. Then she released her grip and collapsed onto her back, staring up at the lights above the arena. She had won. The silence lasted for an eternity. Then the arena erupted. The sound was overwhelming. Millions of voices from dozens of species screaming in disbelief, in shock, in something that might have been joy. Thesic rushed to her side. "You did it! You actually did it!" Kira tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. "Told you, humans don't quit." The ceremony came 3 days later, after the doctors had repaired Kira's broken bones and patched her torn muscles. She stood before the Council of the Concord, 12 beings representing 12 species, the most powerful creatures in the galaxy. Ambassador Veleth spoke. "Humanity has passed the trial of ascension. Your species is worthy of joining the Galactic Concord. You have earned your place among the stars." Kira nodded. It was what she had fought for. But she knew that the real victory was not the ceremony. It was what came after. The aliens would never look at humans the same way again. They had seen a small, soft creature with no natural weapons defeat 5 of the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They had learned that weakness was not the same as helplessness. They had discovered that humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. When Kira returned to the Meridian, the entire crew was waiting for her. They cheered as she walked through the airlock. They hugged her, cried on her shoulder, thanked her with words that could never be enough. Captain Torres stood at the back, watching with tears in his eyes. When the crowd finally let her go, he approached. "You saved us all," he said. "Every human who will ever live. They owe their future to you." Kira shook her head. "I just did what humans have always done. I refuse to give up." Thesic had come aboard to say goodbye. He approached Kira with his triangular head bowed low. "I have one question," he said. "You defeated 5 champions. You did things that should have been impossible. Are you the best fighter among your species?" Kira smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something sharp in it, something that made Thesic's compound eyes widen. "No," she said. "I'm good. But back on Earth, there are people who would beat me without breaking a sweat. I wasn't even ranked in the top 10. Thesic was silent for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back to his shuttle. He had a report to give to the Concorde, a warning. They had invited humans into the galaxy thinking they were weak. They had tested humanity and found something unexpected. They had welcomed wolves dressed as sheep. And now, for the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Concorde was afraid. Kira watched the stars through the Meridian's windows. Earth was out there somewhere, waiting for the good news. Her people would join the galaxy. They would explore the infinite. They would meet species that had never heard of them. And when those species asked what humans were capable of, Kira knew exactly what they would learn. Everything. Humans were capable of everything.